But I can change the view.
Fine.
Okay, so today we're gonna start our sourdough bread and our sourdough starter. And what that means is that we are creating a little garden for yeast to grow in. And it's gonna do that over the next 5 to 10 days. And that could be different for every person. But I found as a perfectionist that just saying 10 days is the most reasonable thing to say, because otherwise I drive myself crazy by feeling like I'm failing every day. The most important thing to know about this is that you're not failing. It's gonna work. It just takes a little bit of time, and way more time than you want it to take when you're sitting at home staring at a jar full of sludge for 10 days. So I linked in the chat, I think. Oh no, because I had to restart the meeting. So I'm gonna link in the chat the recipe that I use. So if at any point you are an advanced learner and you'd like to read ahead from the group, you can do that. But today, what we're going to do is gonna take like 5 minutes max. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it works. Okay, so I have flour here, and all-purpose flour works just fine. If you have fancy rye flour or spelt flour, you can use that in your starter too, but flour works great. And I have plain old water. Some people will tell you to use distilled water. I've never noticed a difference in my bread. So we're gonna use flour and water. I also have a jar. You can also use a bowl if you want to. I mix mine in a big bowl and then transfer it to the jar, because otherwise, like, you can mix it in the jar, but it gets really nasty.
How big of
a little small, Serena.
Too small.
But I mean, you could use it for today, but you probably want a new jar, like tomorrow. Or you could just use a bowl. Like I'm not, you don't have to have any special tools for this. A jar, a bowl, a big cup. Like, do you have one of those, like the cups that you get at Disneyland? You could use that, theoretically. Okay, so let me get my recipe in front of me so that I know that I'm, and I use the term recipe incredibly loosely here. There's very little about it that is recipe-esque, because all you're gonna do is put 3/4 of a cup plus 2 tablespoons of flour into this bowl. And 3/4 of a cup plus 2 tablespoons.
Of flour.
Uh-huh. And if you have a scale, 4 ounces is what you're looking for.
Oh, I'm having flashbacks of March.
You mean when we were all so like naive and optimistic about our little stay at home?
I remember it. Roya led our whole neighborhood in bread making and got us through it. 1, 2, 3. And 2 tablespoons.
Okay, we ready? Okay, and then we're gonna put a 1/2 cup of water, like room temperature water, in.
Yeah. Just dump it in there.
Yep.
It's just so therapeutic, the whole process. When you were like, it's gonna take 10 days, I was like, that's great.
And then we're just gonna stir it up.
Stir it up.
I don't need you looking in my cleavage. That's not awesome. Okay, and then it's gonna look, well, it'll look a variety of ways. Mine, I'm using spelt flour, so it's a little bit more like almost doughy in consistency. Yours might be a little bit waterier because when we're using cups and tablespoons to measure, it's not like, yeah, that looks great. It's not a perfect science. And then we're just gonna transfer it into our jar.
If you don't have the correct lid for your jar, can you put like plastic over it and poke?
You actually don't want to put a lid on your jar. You want to cover it in like a loose kitchen towel or cheesecloth because you want the little yeasties in the air to get into this bad boy.
Fermentation Sunday.
Yeah. So I happen to have a little cheesecloth here that looks like it has remnants of last year's or of March's sourdough on it.
It's a good sourdough. On it.
Cool.
Excited.
And then the way to get everybody involved is to name your sourdough, which I think is really important because you'll develop a relationship with it. And by day 5, you're like praying to this bitch.
Oh,
please, please bubble. So take the time to name it. And then tomorrow I will, we'll essentially just hop back on here and we'll do this for the next 10 days. And there'll be, I mean, it is literally this easy until like day 10. But it's really helpful if we can do it together because it just means that we're a little bit less alone because we're home. Okay, so tomorrow come and tell us the name of your starter and we will we'll meet back here at 6:30 and do another 15 minutes. Get ourselves going. Thanks, ladies.
Awesome. Awesome. Bye, ladies.
Bye.